All right, let's dive right in today, shall we? We're taking a deep dive into emotional intelligence, or EQ.
Oh, EQ. Fascinating stuff.
It is. We talk so much about IQ as being, the ticket to the success.
Right.
But what if EQ is even more important?
Well, it really makes you think, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, for so long, we've been focused on just like purely cognitive abilities, But EQ suggests that maybe understanding and managing emotions,
Yeah.
both our own emotions, but also the emotions of other people,
Right.
that might actually be even more impactful on our overall success.
So give me the so what here.
Okay, sure.
What's the practical value of EQ?
Okay, well, imagine two people, right? One has an incredibly high IQ, off the charts. The other one has exceptional EQ.
Okay.
Now, the high IQ person, they might be able to just breeze through exams, ace every test.
Right.
But when it comes to actually leading a team or navigating the sometimes choppy waters of office politics,
Yeah.
they might struggle. The high EQ person, though, they might excel in those areas. They build relationships, they inspire their colleagues, they bounce back from setbacks, and they're resilient.
So it's like the secret weapon that you can have.
Yeah.
Especially, you think about today's world, collaboration, social skills. These are so highly valued.
They're essential.
So how do we start developing this EQ?
Well, our sources break it down into 5 key components, almost like a roadmap.
Perfect. Love a roadmap.
Yeah.
Give it to me.
Okay, so the first component, and this is really the foundation of EQ, is self-awareness.
Okay.
Think of it like turning on the lights in a dark room.
Okay.
You can't really address something if you can't even see it.
Right. So before we can even manage our emotions, we have to be able to recognize what we're feeling. Like,
Yeah.
okay, I'm feeling overwhelmed right now. What even caused me to feel this way?
Exactly.
Okay.
So self-awareness is about being able to recognize your own emotions, but then also what triggers them.
Yeah.
The specific situations or thoughts that kind of set them off, and then how those emotions are actually impacting your behavior.
Oh,
So it's
yeah.
like you become this detective of your own inner world.
I love that. A detective of your own inner world.
Yeah.
Okay, so our sources suggest a few things that we can do
Right.
to boost self-awareness. One of them's journaling.
Yeah, journaling is great.
But I have to admit, with my schedule, even just thinking about journaling
Yeah.
makes me feel overwhelmed.
Yeah, I get that. But even 5 minutes a day can be so incredibly effective.
Really?
Yeah, just think of it as like a quick mental download at the end of the day.
Okay.
What did I feel today? What caused those emotions? You don't have to write these long, elaborate entries.
Right.
Just a quick little check-in, and that will help you build that self-awareness muscle.
5 minutes, okay. I can commit to 5 minutes.
There you go.
What about mindfulness practices? Everybody's talking about mindfulness these days.
Yeah. Well, mindfulness is a really, really powerful tool for self-awareness. It's about paying attention to the present moment without judgment. So even doing some simple breathing exercises can really help you become more aware of your emotions as they come up.
Okay, so we're turning on the lights. We're becoming aware of our emotional landscape.
Yes.
What's the next step?
So the next step is self-regulation.
Okay.
This is all about managing those emotions,
Okay.
especially when things get a little bit tough,
Sure.
Staying calm, staying composed, feeling in control even when you're under pressure.
I think so many people struggle with this.
Oh, absolutely.
Especially in high-stress situations. It's so easy to let your emotions just, take over.
It is, and that's why self-regulation is so important.
Okay.
It's not about suppressing those emotions, it's about learning how to manage them in a healthy way, a productive way.
Okay.
Our sources talk about this technique. It's called the 10-second rule.
Oh, okay. Tell me more.
It's incredibly simple. When you feel yourself getting triggered, or you're about to react impulsively, just pause for 10 seconds.
Okay.
Take a few deep breaths. Use that time to really assess the situation and decide how you want to respond, rather than just reacting automatically.
So you're hitting the pause button.
Yes, exactly.
On your emotions, you take a minute, and then you can choose how you want to respond rather than just being reactive.
Exactly.
Yeah, I love that.
It's about regaining control in those moments.
Okay.
Our sources also mention labeling your emotions specifically. So instead of just saying, I'm angry, you say, I'm frustrated because I feel like I'm not being heard.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
How does that help?
Well, research suggests that by actually giving a name to your emotions, you can actually diminish their intensity. It's like you're shining a light on them, you're bringing them out of the shadows, and they lose a little bit of their power.
Okay, so we're not letting our emotions just run the show anymore. We're becoming more self-aware.
What?
We're learning how to regulate our emotions, but what about motivation?
Oh yeah, motivation is key.
Where does that fit into all of this?
It fits in, but maybe in a way that might surprise you. So motivation in the context of EQ, it goes beyond just like setting goals.
Okay.
It's about cultivating a growth mindset. It's about resilience, and it's about that inner drive to keep pushing forward even when things get really tough.
So it's less about those external motivators like, oh, I'm going to get a promotion or whatever it is. And it's more about that internal drive.
Yeah, it's more about that fire that comes from within.
Yeah.
And it's fascinating because people with high EQ, they're often driven by these things called intrinsic goals. So their motivation comes from within.
Okay.
It aligns with their values, with their passions.
They're pursuing things that really matter to them, not just chasing those external rewards.
Exactly, exactly.
But how do you even begin to, like, identify what your intrinsic goals even are?
Well, a good place to start is to think about the activities that bring you a sense of joy, a sense of fulfillment, even if there aren't any external rewards attached to them. So, what are you passionate about? What kind of volunteer work really lights you up? Any creative pursuits that make you feel more alive?
So things that you would do even if you weren't getting paid to do them. Things that make you feel energized and engaged.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay, but I think even if you've got that internal drive, sometimes it can be really easy to get discouraged when you face challenges.
Oh, for sure.
Which we all do, right?
Yeah.
So how does EQ help us when we're facing those inevitable setbacks?
Well, that's where resilience comes in. So people with high EQ, they tend to view challenges as opportunities for growth rather than these insurmountable obstacles. So they're much more likely to bounce back from setbacks,
Okay.
to learn from their mistakes, and to just keep a positive outlook even when things are really tough.
So they're not immune to those setbacks, but they have that inner strength to be able to just keep going.
Yeah, they're able to keep going.
That's pretty inspiring.
It is. It is.
Our sources also talk about celebrating those small wins.
Oh, yeah, that's huge.
Why is that so important?
Well, every time you celebrate a small win, your brain releases a little bit of dopamine,
Oh, yeah.
which is that feel-good hormone, and that creates this positive feedback loop.
Okay.
And that, in turn, makes you more motivated to keep working towards those goals.
So it's like giving yourself a little pat on the back, acknowledging the progress that you're making. Exactly. Building that momentum.
Yeah, building that momentum. And, you know, especially if you're someone who tends to focus on the big picture and maybe overlooks those little victories along the way,
Guilty as charged.
celebrating those small wins can be a real game changer for your motivation.
Love it.
It's about shifting the focus from just the end goal to the journey itself,
Yeah,
making it more enjoyable, more sustainable,
totally.
you know.
Okay, so we're self-aware, we're regulating our emotions, we're finding that intrinsic motivation, but EQ is not just about us, right?
Yeah.
It's about how we connect with other people.
Absolutely. And that brings us to the heart of EQ, component number 4, empathy. It's all about understanding and sharing the feelings of others, really being able to step into someone else's shoes.
Yeah, but isn't empathy like something you're either born with or you're not? Can you actually learn it?
You absolutely can. It's
Yeah.
a skill like any other. And, you know, our sources actually have some pretty great tips on how to improve your empathy.
Okay, I like it.
One of the most important ones is active listening. And I'm not just talking about hearing the words, it's really focusing on the speaker, paying attention to their body language, their tone of voice,
Right.
all without interrupting or trying to offer solutions right away.
So you're really trying to see the world through their lens, even if you haven't experienced those same emotions yourself.
Exactly, and that feeling of being truly heard and understood can be so powerful.
Yeah.
It really strengthens that connection between two people.
Our sources also talk about asking open-ended questions. How does that fit in?
Well, open-ended questions, they really invite the other person to share more,
Okay.
and they help you understand their perspective better.
Oh, okay.
So instead of asking a closed question like, are you upset?
Right.
You might try something like, how are you feeling about this situation?
Yeah.
That encourages them to really express themselves fully and gives you more insight into what's going on with them emotionally.
So you're not assuming that you know how they feel. You're letting them tell you in their own words.
Exactly. And by actively listening and asking those open-ended questions, you're showing genuine curiosity,
Right.
a willingness to understand their point of view, and those are really key elements of empathy.
So it's all about creating a safe space for them to open up
Yes,
without feeling judged.
absolutely.
Yeah, okay. I'm really seeing how all of these EQ components kind of build on each other.
Yeah, they do.
We're becoming more self-aware, we're learning to manage our emotions, we're tapping into that intrinsic motivation.
Right.
And now with empathy, we're building those stronger connections.
All right.
So what's the final piece of this EQ puzzle?
So that brings us to social skills. This is component number 5, and it's all about managing relationships effectively, being able to build rapport, and communicate clearly and respectfully.
Okay.
It's about navigating social situations with ease.
So if empathy is about understanding other people's emotions, social skills is how we put that understanding into action.
I think that's a great way to put it.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like the bridge between your internal emotional intelligence and how you're interacting with everyone around you.
One thing that our sources emphasized was nonverbal communication.
Right.
Why is that so important when we're talking about social skills?
Because, sometimes actions really do speak louder than words.
Okay.
Things like body language, facial expressions, tone of voice, even eye contact, all of these nonverbal cues can convey so much information, sometimes even more than what we're actually saying.
So there's like a whole other conversation happening
Exactly.
underneath the surface.
Absolutely. And if you can learn to tune into those nonverbal signals, you can really understand what's being communicated on a much deeper level.
It makes you a more effective communicator overall.
It does. It really does. You start to pick up on these subtle emotional cues.
Right.
You understand the unspoken messages, and you can adjust your own communication accordingly.
I bet this is super important in fields like leadership,
Oh, absolutely.
where you're trying to build trust
Yeah.
and rapport.
You're right. And, people with high EQ, they're often natural leaders because they have that ability to inspire and motivate others, create that positive environment
Yeah.
where everyone feels comfortable collaborating.
Okay, so we've talked about what EQ is, why it matters, those 5 key components.
Right.
But I really love that EQ is not just some abstract concept.
No, it's not.
It actually has really tangible benefits in our lives.
Absolutely. It impacts almost every area of our life.
From our personal relationships to our professional success and even our mental well-being. So let's talk about those benefits. Our sources, they highlighted some really compelling reasons why we should all be investing in our EQ.
Yeah, and they're important.
So let's break them down.
Okay, so let's start with personal relationships. Friends, family, partners.
Yeah.
High EQ can really help you create stronger, more fulfilling connections.
Okay.
You're better equipped to communicate effectively, to navigate disagreements constructively,
Yeah.
and build that foundation of trust and understanding.
It makes sense. If you're more aware of your own emotions and you're able to regulate them, you're less likely to overreact,
Absolutely.
or say something that you'll regret later.
Right.
And then with empathy, you're able to actually see things from their perspective, and you can find solutions that work for both of you.
Exactly. And being able to resolve conflicts peacefully is
Yeah.
so crucial for any healthy relationship.
Right.
And it's not just about navigating the rough patches.
Yeah.
High EQ also leads to greater self-confidence and a stronger sense of well-being. You feel more comfortable in your own skin, you're more resilient when you face challenges, and you're just better equipped to handle all of life's ups and downs.
So EQ sounds like a recipe for happy, healthy relationships.
It really is.
But what about our work lives? Does EQ actually give us a competitive edge in the workplace?
It absolutely does. In fact, our sources really emphasize that EQ is becoming more and more valuable in today's workplace.
Okay.
I mean, think about it. So much of what we do at work involves collaborating, teamwork, communication,
Right.
leadership,
Yeah.
all areas where EQ is essential.
You can't just have those technical skills anymore, right? You have to be able to actually work effectively with other people.
You do.
Yeah.
Navigate those complex social
Yeah.
dynamics and handle those stressful situations, which, let's be honest, they happen all the time at work.
All the time, with grace.
With grace. And you know what? It really seems like EQ is becoming just as important as IQ, maybe even more so.
It does.
Yeah, in fact, there was some research done by the Carnegie Institute of Technology, and they found that 85% of financial success is actually due to skills like personality,
No.
the ability to communicate, negotiate, and lead. Only 15% is due to technical knowledge.
That's huge.
It is huge.
So EQ is not just some fluffy feel-good concept.
No, not at all.
It's a key driver of success in the workplace.
Yes, it is.
I love that.
And, it's often the people with high EQ who end up rising to those leadership positions.
Yeah.
It's because they're not just brilliant minds, they're also great communicators.
Right.
They're empathetic listeners, They're inspiring motivators.
Yeah, it's the whole package.
It is. Yeah.
Okay, so we've talked about the benefits for our personal lives, our professional lives.
Right.
Our sources also mention a connection between EQ and mental health.
Yeah, it's an important connection.
Can you tell me more about that?
Sure. So having a high EQ can really make a big difference when it comes to your mental and emotional well-being. Let's take stress and anxiety, for example. People who have really strong self-regulation skills, they're much better at managing those feelings.
Okay.
They can recognize when they're starting to feel overwhelmed,
Yeah.
take steps to calm themselves down, and avoid getting stuck in that spiral of negative thoughts.
So it's not about avoiding those negative emotions altogether.
Right.
It's about having the tools to be able to deal with them in a healthy way.
Exactly. And that ultimately leads to a greater sense of well-being.
Okay.
And high EQ can also make you more resilient when you're facing challenges. You know, you could bounce back from setbacks, learn from your mistakes, and just have a more optimistic outlook, even when things are tough.
So it's like EQ gives you this buffer
Yeah.
against the stresses of life.
Absolutely.
We're not just reacting to everything that happens. We have that inner strength, that emotional intelligence to be able to deal with challenges in a more graceful, resilient way.
Exactly. And, you know, that can make a world of difference, not just in how you experience life, but also in your ability to thrive in all those areas.
Yeah.
Your relationships, your career, your overall well-being.
So, wow, we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive into EQ.
We have.
Why it matters, those 5 key components.
It's fascinating, isn't it?
It is, the benefits, even some practical tips to help us boost our EQ.
Yeah.
I don't know about you, but I'm feeling pretty inspired to put all this into practice.
Oh, me too. Absolutely. It's amazing to think that we have this capacity within us, you know, to understand our emotions, manage them, build stronger relationships, and just navigate life with more grace and resilience.
Yeah, and what I love is that it's a skill.
Right.
Like learning to play a new instrument or learning a new language. It's something that we can all develop.
Absolutely, yeah. And it's not about being perfect, you know?
Right.
It's about those small, consistent efforts over time.
Right.
You build those EQ muscles.
And even small improvements
Oh,
can
yeah.
have such a huge impact.
They really can. It's true. Those little improvements can ripple out and affect every area of your life. Okay, so our sources actually gave us some specific exercises that we can start using,
Oh, that's great.
like right away, to boost our EQ.
Yeah, I like that. Practical tips.
One of them is a daily emotional check-in,
Okay.
which sounds so simple, but I think it could be really powerful.
It is deceptively simple, but you know what? It's so powerful.
Okay.
The idea is just to take a few minutes each day, pause, tune in to how you're feeling emotionally.
Okay.
Ask yourself, what am I feeling right now? Why am I feeling this way? How is this emotion influencing my thoughts and actions?
It's like taking your emotional temperature.
Yeah, exactly.
Just a quick little check-in.
Yeah, check in, yeah.
Okay.
And the more you do it, the more comfortable you'll become with recognizing and understanding your emotions, which, you know, like we talked about, that's the foundation of EQ.
Right. Okay. And then we talked about the 10-second rule earlier.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
It's such a simple technique, but I think it could be so helpful.
Oh, it's incredibly helpful just hitting that pause button. You know, get off of autopilot for a second, and then you can choose a more thoughtful response instead of reacting in a way that you might regret later.
Right. Okay, I love that. And then there's the empathy challenge. Have you heard of this?
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
So it's making a conscious effort to listen to someone.
Right.
Without interrupting.
Without interrupting.
Or offering solutions.
Right, just listen.
It's a challenge.
It is a challenge.
For me, at least.
It's so good for practicing active listening and deepening your empathy skills.
Right.
And the challenge is just to listen with your full attention. Try to understand their perspective.
Yeah.
Validate their feelings. And just don't jump in with your own thoughts or advice right away.
It's like you're giving them the gift of being heard.
Yes, exactly.
And understood.
And that could be so powerful for a relationship.
Yeah, I think we really underestimate the power of just listening
We do.
without feeling like we have to fix everything.
Yeah, we want to fix it, give advice.
Right, exactly.
But sometimes people just need to be heard.
Right, okay, so they also suggested keeping a gratitude journal,
Oh, gratitude's huge.
which I've done in the past. I know it's such a simple thing, but it really can make a difference.
It really can. It can.
How does that fit into EQ?
Well, practicing gratitude has been shown to have a really positive effect on our emotional well-being.
Okay.
You know, when you take the time each day to appreciate the good things in your life, even the small things,
Yeah.
it can really shift your focus away from negativity
Okay.
and boost your overall happiness and resilience.
It's like you're training your brain.
Yeah, you are.
Look for the good.
You're training your brain to look for the positive.
Yeah, I love that.
And that can have a big impact on how you interact with other people and how you deal with challenges.
Totally.
Yeah. And speaking of training your brain, our sources also talked about mindfulness practices, things like meditation or deep breathing exercises.
Yeah, I've dabbled in meditation.
Oh, yeah.
I can see how that would help you become more aware of your emotions.
Oh, absolutely.
Learn to observe them without judgment.
Right. You cultivate that inner observer.
Yeah.
That part of you that can just witness those emotions without judgment.
Yeah.
And then you can respond to them more skillfully.
Okay, so it sounds like we have this whole toolkit of exercises we can start using today
We do.
to boost our EQ.
We do. And, it's really empowering to realize that we have this ability to cultivate these essential skills
Yeah.
and to create a more fulfilling, meaningful life for ourselves and for the people around us.
Okay, so as we wrap up this deep dive,
Yeah.
let's leave our listener with a question,
Sure.
something to think about, to kind of spark further reflection on their own EQ journey.
Okay. I like that.
So I was thinking, what if we asked them to think about someone they admire,
Okay.
who they think has exceptional emotional intelligence?
Oh, that's a good one.
And then what are the qualities or behaviors that make that person stand out?
Right. What do they do? How do they handle things? How do they interact with others?
Yeah, like a real-life EQ role model.
Yeah. Yeah. A role model. That's great.
So by observing those individuals, maybe we can gain some insights
Absolutely.
and inspiration for our own growth.
And remember, developing your EQ, it's a journey.
Right.
It's not about reaching some perfect end state. It's about continuous growth, self-discovery.
Well said. That brings us to the end of another deep dive.
Yes, it does.
Thank you for joining us on this exploration of EQ. Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep riding those wisdom waves.